Good morning, everyone. Learning leads to creativity. Creativity leads to thinking. Thinking provides knowledge, and knowledge makes you great. With this beautiful quote by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, I am Yakshita, lecturer in Department of Commerce of Nehru Memorial College, Sulya. I welcome you all to this last day of National Level Faculty Development Program webinar on Concept and Development of Research Methodology, organized by Department of Commerce and IQAC. Now I request Mrs. Ratnavati D, HOD of Commerce and IQAC coordinator of our college, to welcome the gathering.
Good morning all. Your positive action combined with positive thinking results in success. We are in last day of this 3 days national level FDP webinar. Today's webinar, as you know, Concept and Development of Research Theory. I, Ratnavati D, Head of the Department of Commerce and IQAC Coordinator, would like to welcome Dr. Puappa Gowda K, Principal of our college, who always support and encourage us in all activities. I welcome you, sir. I heartily welcome Dr. K.V. Chidananda, sir, President AOLE Registered Sulya, Srimati Shobha Chidanand, Treasurer AOLE Registered Sulya, and Architect Akshay K.C., Director AOLE Registered Sulya, for their constant support and encouragement. I welcome you all. I extremely feel proud to welcome Professor Vedav P. Chairman, Department of Commerce and Research, Mangalore University, resource person of today's webinar. I welcome you, sir. I heartily welcome Chief Guest of Professor M. Balachandra Gowda, sir, Academic Advisor, Nehru Memorial College, Sulya, to this program, who is very supportive in every event. I welcome you, sir. Student Welfare Officer of our college and Organizing Secretary of this FDP, Mr. Rudra Kumar MM, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, is being with us. I cordially welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
It is with great pleasure on behalf of our management, principal and staff, I take this opportunity to welcome all the participants from different institutions. I welcome you all. I am delightful to offer a happy welcome to my colleagues, teaching and not teaching of our institution. Finally, I welcome one and all who helped directly and indirectly to this 3 days national level FTP webinar from 15th July to 17th July 2021. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Now it's time for our beloved principal, Dr. Puappa Gowda K, to address the gathering.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಪ್ರಾತಃ ಕಾಲದ ಶುಭ ವಂದನೆಗಳು. ಕಳೆದ 2 ದಿನಗಳಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಲೇಜಿನ ಕಾಮರ್ಸ್ ವಿಭಾಗದವರು ಫ್ಯಾಕಲ್ಟಿ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಂ ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಶೋಧನಾ ವಿಧಾನದ ಪ್ರಗತಿ ಮತ್ತು ಪರಿಕಲ್ಪನೆ ಎಂಬ ವಿಚಾರವಾಗಿ ವರ್ಚುವಲ್ ವೆಬಿನಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಸಂಶೋಧನಾ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಮತ್ತು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬ ಫ್ಯಾಕಲ್ಟಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಇದರಿಂದ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಉಪಯುಕ್ತವಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೆ. ಕಾರಣ ಬಹಳ ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟ ಇದೆ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳಾಗಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಿದವರು ಮೈಸೂರಿನವರಾದ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಬಸವರಾಜ್, ನಾಗರಾಜ್ ಬಿ ಅವರು, ಮಂಗಳೂರಿನ ನಿಯಾಜ್ ಮತ್ತು ಇಂದು ನನ್ನ ನಿಡುಗಾಳದ ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರು, ಈಗ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತ ಮಂಗಳೂರು ವಿಶ್ವವಿದ್ಯಾನಿಲಯದ ವಾಣಿಜ್ಯ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ವಿಭಾಗದ ಅಧ್ಯಕ್ಷರು ಆಗಿರುವ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ವೇದವ ಪಲ್ಲೋಡಿಯವರು ಬಹಳ ಆಪ್ತರು. ನನಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಖುಷಿ ಇವತ್ತು. ಹೀಗೆ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲಗೊಂಡಿರುವ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಿಂದ ಅತ್ಯುತ್ತಮವಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಪರಿಣಾಮ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇದರ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಉಪಯುಕ್ತತೆಯನ್ನ ಪಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಈ ಅರ್ಥಪೂರ್ಣವಾದಂತ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನ ಸಂಯೋಜಿಸುವಲ್ಲಿ ಸಹಕರಿಸಿದ ನಮ್ಮ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್, ಹಾಗೇನೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಶೈಕ್ಷಣಿಕ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರಾದ ಎಂ ಬಾಲಚಂದ್ರ ಗೌಡ ಇರಬಹುದು, ವಿಭಾಗದ ಎಲ್ಲ ನನ್ನ ಸಹೋದ್ಯೋಗಿ ಮಿತ್ರರು ಸಹಕರಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಯ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳುತ್ತೇನೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಇಂದು ಮುಂದುವರಿತಿರುವ ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಯಶಸ್ಸಾಗಬೇಕು, ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳಾಗಿರತಕ್ಕಂತ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ವೇದವ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ನನ್ನ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಯ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳುತ್ತಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಶುಭದ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳುತ್ತಾ ನನ್ನ ಮಾತುಗಳನ್ನು ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೇನೆ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ವಂದನೆಗಳು.
Thank you, sir. Your words have always been a source of inspiration for all of us. Now I request Mr. Sridhara V, Lecturer, Department of Commerce, to introduce the resource person, Professor Vedava P.
Good morning to you all. It is my proud privilege to introduce today's chief guest, Dr. Vedava sir. Dr. Vedava P pursued Doctor of Philosophy in Commerce from Mangalore University in the year 2012 and is currently working as Associate Professor, Coordinator of MCOM HRD and Chairman in PG Department of Studies in Commerce, Mangalore University. He started his career as a lecturer in Saint Philomena College, Puttur in the year 2000 and worked up to 2003. On 3rd February 2003, he was appointed as an assistant professor in Mangalore University. He has published 28 articles in various journals, magazines, and edited volumes. He has presented 23 research papers in state, national, and international seminars in India and abroad. He has been co-authored 3 books: Business Education and Employability, Changes and New Directions, Contemporary Advancement in Commerce, Business Trends, Issues, Implications, and authored a book, Strategic Management, Study Material for MCOM Students of Distance Education Program, Mangalore University. He has participated in number of FDP workshops and seminars as a delegate, resource person, and as an organizer in his career. He also participated in number of refresher courses. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Professor Vedava P to take over this session.
Respected Principal of Nehru Memorial College, Dr. Puvappa Kaniyuru sir, and all the faculty members of the college in general, and the faculty members of the Department of Commerce, guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to all of you, a very outset. And first of all, I congratulate Nehru Memorial College, NMC, in general, and the Department of Commerce in particular, on organizing this type of a meaningful and beautiful, FDP, Faculty Development Program webinar on the concept and the development of research methodology. And first of all, it's my privilege to, express gratitude, for giving me an opportunity to be, or to giving me an opportunity to participate in this particular, program, that is webinar. It's a resource person for today. So I thank Nehru Memorial College, Sullia, and all faculty members of Nehru Memorial College, Sullia, and the management people of Nehru Memorial College, Sullia, in general, for giving me an opportunity to do, this program today. And in particular, so I am very happy to say that, the principal of Nehru Memorial College, my well-wisher, Dr. Puvappa Kannur, and the organizing secretary of this FDP webinar, Mr. Rudra Kumar. They have given me an opportunity to, participate in this particular program as a resource person. And therefore, in particular, so I thank the principal of the college, Dr. Puvappa Kannur, and Mr. Rudra Kumar for the opportunity. With this, expression of gratitude for the opportunity, let me start today's topic or a discussion on the topic that is the concept and the development of the research theory. So the topic, as you all know, that is the concept and the development of research theory. So it is said that there is nothing so practical than as a, good theory. So theory is the most practical aspect. And of course, we may, or we know that. So there are, the theoretical aspects to be studied and the practical aspects to be studied. But, if you want to understand any practical aspect, then, so we have to note that the theory is the base for that. And that is why it is said that there is nothing so practical, say, good theory like that. So theory is the most, important, aspect, or it serves as the base. So only with the knowledge, or only with the, the background of the theoretical knowledge, so we can understand a particular phenomenon of interest, under our study. So we know that the purpose of the science is the expansion of knowledge and the discovery of truth. And theory building is one of the important scientific goal of a basic or a pure researcher, or a important purpose or goal of a basic researcher or a pure research. So when you say basic research or pure research versus applied research, so we have to understand that the purpose of basic or pure research is understanding the various dimensions of the problem or the expansion of the knowledge rather than finding a solution to a real life pragmatic problem faced by an organization. And if we take the case of applied research, its purpose is to find a solution to a specific problem, encountered or faced by an organization. So a pure or basic theory, therefore, is used for the purpose of what is called, verifying or developing and verifying the theory and to know more about the concepts. That's all. So we say whether you have a pure or a basic research, or we have applied research, or for that matter any kind of research, the scientific method is considered as the essence of any research. Therefore, sometimes we may say research means theory building, or theory building, or for research we require theory building. Therefore, ultimately by doing research, what we do, we develop a theory. And how we develop a theory? So this is guided by what is called a scientific method. Therefore, the scientific method, we can say, is the very essence of what's called theory building and or what's called research. And we all may be familiar, or at least we might have we heard this term scientific method. And therefore, this type of scientific method, can be understood as the set of procedures and techniques that are used for the purpose of knowing and understanding a phenomenon of interest, or knowing and understanding the subject matter of the study. Of course, it analyzes and interprets the information based upon empirical evidence. When we say empirical evidence, that is the information or the facts obtained either from say observation. One of the basic research methods, say observation, or any other basic research method, say experimentation. So we analyze and interpret the data for the purpose of what is called either confirming or disproving or rejecting the prior conceptions about the subject matter of the study, or for the purpose of accepting or rejecting the hypothesis related to the problem under our study, or related to the subject matter of the study. So that is the meaning of what's called a scientific method, which serves as the essence of any theory. And therefore, when we discuss the core process of theory building or theory development, so we should always keep in this particular aspect, that is scientific method, in our mind. So it is better. So if we, if we know the meaning of research, first of all, in a broad sense, we can say research is concerned with either the creation of new knowledge or the use of existing knowledge, so for the purpose of generating some new ideas, new understandings, correct, new concepts, etc. In a broad sense, we can say like that. But anyway, research is a process. So we can say that it is a very systematic and objective process of gathering, recording, and analyzing data for facilitating or for, for aid in making decisions. Ultimately, we'll have to form some decisions or judgment. In order to facilitate this type of judgment or decision, so we have to depend upon this type of what's called, research. And if we analyze this type of definition, we can say that there are three important aspects actually. So it is a very systematic process. So when we say systematic process, so here the data or the information should not be collected in a haphazard or arbitrary manner. So it should be collected in a very systematic manner. Therefore, when we say research, or that it is a research, means you will have to search again. And if you want to search again, so we require patience. We must be very calm. Only a person who is very calm minded person can do research, because it is nothing but a research, wherein a researcher takes a re-look at the things to know all that can be known about the subject matter. So it is a very, therefore, a systematic manner. And it is a very objective process. The researcher must be very, objective person. There should not be any scope for the introduction of bias on the part of the researcher. So one of the authors, 18th century, American humorist Art-Must Ward pointed out like this, emphasizing the importance of objectivity in the field of, research. It is not the things that we don't know that get, gets us in trouble, but it is the things which we know that is not so. So this point we have to keep in mind. So if you don't know anything about a particular issue, so there may not be any problem for us. But the problem arises when we think that we know a particular issue, and then we may face some problems. And therefore, it is not the things that we don't know that gets that get us in trouble, but it is the things which we know that is not so, as this particular person pointed out. So that is the importance of objectivity in research. And of course, when we say this research or findings are used for the purpose of facilitating decision-making process. So when we use these findings of the research based upon what's called gathering, collection, and analysis of data for the purpose of facilitating decision-making process, what you will have to do, we'll have to consider all the aspects of that particular decision. So if a business decision has to be taken, then we should take into account all the aspects of a business organization. Say finance department or marketing department, personnel department, all those parts must be considered while taking a decision. So that is the meaning of research. Now, research theory development means ultimately it's a research, or research leads to the development of a theory. Therefore, sometimes we may use research and theory interchangeably, but difference can also you make, and therefore research and or theory building. So we can say like this, correct? So the theory building aspect, as you just now pointed out, is considered as the scientific goal of any basic or pure research. And of course, the scientific method is considered as the essence of this type of theory building. And
Whether sir, sorry to disturb you.
Okay.
Hello sir.
Hello.
Sir, ಅದು ಆ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನೀವು ಮೇಲೆ ಹಿಂದೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್, ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಫುಲ್ ನೀವು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಟಾಪ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹಿಂದೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹಿಂದೆ ಮಾಡಿ, ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಂದೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಸರ್, ಕೈಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ ತಳ್ಳಬೇಕು. ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಸರ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ. ಸಾಕು ಸರ್. ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಓಕೆ ಸರ್. ನಾವು ಇಷ್ಟು ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
So once again, so we can say that a theory building is a scientific goal of a basic researcher or a pure researcher. And what are the goals of theory building? No, prediction and understanding are the two important goals of theory building. Why should we develop a theory? So ultimately we should go for prediction and understanding. And we must understand and we must know. So we'll have to know the difference between knowledge and understanding, knowing and understanding. So this, hope now my slides are okay. Should I again move this window away? So sorry for the disturbance. So the goal of theory building, that is prediction and understanding. So we must understand, and we must go for prediction. So there is a difference between knowing and understanding, because understanding is required in order to put the knowledge into use. To know, or the act of knowing, is called knowledge. Therefore, if we, indulge in the process of naming, classifying, or listing the things, then what we say, we are in the process of knowing the things. So therefore, when we say knowledge or knowing, it is related to the skills and the abilities that are derived on the basis of our experience or education. And therefore knowledge, or we can say knowing, that is static, it is not dynamic. But understanding is something more than that. So understanding is done through our brain, whereas mind is meant for knowing the things. Therefore, when we receive the information, it is processed in the mind, and then in order to understand the things, then this information processed in the mind goes to our brain, so that understanding takes place. So this type of understanding helps us to distinguish, interpret, evaluate, explain and summarize the data. So understanding, therefore, is a deeper aspect than knowing. So understanding succeeds knowing. So only when we know the things, then understanding takes place, which is much broader than or deeper aspect than knowing. Therefore, we can say that understanding is required for the purpose of what we say, putting our knowledge into or making the knowledge usable, or putting our knowledge into use. The purpose of any theory building, it is understanding, broadly speaking, understanding and prediction, or prediction and understanding. So on the basis of, say, characteristics of one phenomenon, we can predict the characteristics of another phenomenon. So this is nothing but a prediction. So a theorist may find that older people prefer investment income more than the younger people. A theorist may theorize like this: elder people prefer investment income more than the younger people. So this type of theory, once verified, should allow the researcher to predict the importance of this type of investment income, say the importance of say dividend, say based upon the knowledge of what's called the age, where age is considered as the independent way, and the importance of investment income or dividend income is called dependent variable. So this is called, this is the case of what is called the prediction. So based upon the characteristics of the known phenomena, we try to understand or predict the characteristics of unknown situation. So known thing, that is independent variable, unknown thing, so we'll have to predict the unknown value of a dependent variable. So of course, this type of anticipating future conditions and then, predicting the future conditions, so is very essential for a researcher. But we cannot say that, or we should not say that prediction is the only purpose of a theory, building. If any problem, you can directly, intervene. You can ask any doubt. Anyway, so prediction is very important. So wherein you have to anticipate the future conditions. But prediction alone cannot satisfy a researcher's curiosity, or a prediction alone is not sufficient. Understanding is also required. For example, we know we can forecast the election results or election outcome, and we can find out who may probably win the election. This is called prediction actually. But this type of prediction alone cannot satisfy a curiosity of the researcher as to the reasons why a particular candidate will win. So if you want to know why a particular candidate has won or will win, then understanding is required. So this type of knowledge, prediction and understanding always go hand in hand. And if you want to understand the things, we must be in a position to understand why the variables behave as they do. So only if we can understand this, or if we know this, why the things behave as they do, why a person speaks as he or she does. So only if we know this, then we can understand the things. So prediction and understanding are the important goals of theory building. Now coming to the definition of a theory building, with this background, so we can say sometimes this type of theory is defined very broadly so as to include all the descriptive statements about the phenomenon of interest. And sometimes very narrowly this type of theory is defined to exclude everything except or but. The important terms, or terminologies in their relationships, what's called satisfying certain logical requirements. So we can say that a theory is nothing but a coherent set of propositions. A coherent means a logical. Coherent means organized value or logical. That is the meaning. So a theory is considered as, or theory can be understood as a coherent set of propositions to be used as the principles of the explanations of the apparent relationships of the observed phenomena of interest or the observed phenomena under our consideration. So ultimately, when we have to build a theory, so we must be in a position to explain the things as to why the things behave as they do. And therefore, when we go for theory building or when we want to do the research, we should always keep in mind the wordings or the expression given by Rudyard Kipling. Rudyard Kipling, one of the authors. So he, with the title Poetry and Research, an Odd Couple, question mark. This is the title. Poetry and Research, an Odd Couple. Question mark. So I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and where and how and who. So to understand any research or theory building, actually only 6 honest serving men or friends are there. And their names are what, why, when, where, how, and who. So when we say theory, so we have to answer all these 6 questions. So we'll have to explain the relationships amongst the problems associated with the phenomenon of subject matter. So a theory therefore can be understood as a coherent, that is a logical, a coherent set of propositions. So proposition to understand this type of definition or for theory. So we must be in a position to understand what are propositions. But to understand or to answer this question, what are propositions, we must clarify the concepts or constructs. So on the basis of the understanding of concepts or constructs, so there is a difference between concepts and constructs. So the process of developing a theory, we can say it is a process of describing a phenomenon at increasingly higher levels of abstraction, higher levels of abstraction, at increasingly, higher levels of abstraction. So any theory, therefore, can be understood as the logical network of propositions here. Therefore, first we must know what are concepts to understand, what is a theory. So on the basis of understanding of concepts or constructs, we can know what are propositions, and then we can understand what are theories. So whether we have concepts or constructs are found at the lowest level of abstraction, concepts. Theories are, or theory, the process of theory development therefore can be understood as the process of describing a phenomenon at increasingly higher levels of abstraction. So abstraction, so most abstract, most concrete, like that. So concepts are most abstract. As we move up the ladder of abstraction, concepts become more abstract, wider in scope, right, and less amenable to measurement. So when we discuss theories, theories are found at the highest level of abstraction, and concepts are the lowest level of abstraction. Or what we can say,
Theories are found at the highest level of abstraction. Concepts are found at the highest concrete level. The most concrete things are concepts. The most abstract things are theories. In between, we find propositions. So concepts are nothing but generalized ideas about the objects or the events that we can observe. So when a theorist say, oh, we may have an organizational theorist, he or she may describe a process of organizational behavior. So while describing the process of organizational behavior, he or she may categorize the various events into a number of concepts. Here the concepts are personality, morale, leadership, right, team, all those things are there. So these are the concepts actually. Concepts are basic, units of the theory development. So concepts are derived on the basis of reality. Whether you have theories or propositions or concepts, all these things, abstract reality. We abstract theories or propositions or concepts, correct, into reality. Reality is the base here. So then what is abstraction? So if you want to know what is theory building, so we must know the meaning of abstraction. Abstraction we use in our day-to-day life related to real world behavior, and most of the mental images that we form about the objects or events, after learning them from what's called education or on the basis of experience, can be the first ordered abstraction. When we form or when we conjure up the images of some objects, correct, after learning them from our experience or education, then this can be understood as a first ordered abstraction. Therefore, we can say we indulge in abstraction when we label or name, or when we label or name the things with the words or phrases, then we say we indulge in the process of abstraction. Okay. When we label the things with the words or phrases, we indulge in abstraction. Therefore, abstraction is nothing but is a process of simplification or generalizations that leaves out less essential characteristics while describing a phenomena. Right. So we may label an object as an apple or an orange. Then we leave out, we don't consider, we remove all the specificities of exact color, size, shape, weight. We cannot say an orange means it should weigh, or its weight must be exactly 150 grams. Like that we cannot say. Weight of orange may vary. So therefore, we don't consider all these unnecessary characteristics while we label an object as an orange. We remove all specificities of exact color, size, shape, etc. and call an object by that name, that is orange or apple, or we call all those objects by that name, orange or apple, that are similar but not identical. That's very important. When you say identical, all the objects must be of the exact color, exact size, exact weight. So this is not considered. So it is enough objects are similar but not identical. Then we can call those objects apple or orange or like that. But of course, enough detail must be taken into account, that is there, does not mean that we will have to remove all the pieces of information. No, enough details must be, retained. First, exclude hosts of objects being called apple or orange. And then at a higher level of, this is first ordered abstraction. So concept, when you say concept, so it is just like, orange or apple, like that. Then proposition, at a higher level of abstraction, we have a proposition. So at a still higher level of abstraction, or at a higher level of abstraction, so we can have what's called, fruit. So apple or orange, and then fruit. When you say fruit, it includes not only apple, but also other types of fruits, broader. So higher level of abstraction. We are in a higher level of abstraction. So proposition is something like fruit. Right? So here again, we don't consider, less essential, pieces of information. But of course, sufficient information must be there in order to exclude the objects that are being called, correct. So the fruits. So sufficient information must be, retained. That is there. But non-essential or less important characteristics are not taken into account. So when you say proposition, so proposition is nothing but, so in order to develop a theory, so it is not enough if we just have what is called concepts. So we may have two concepts. Then these two or more than two concepts. Then these concepts in isolation cannot serve any purpose of theory development. We must understand what is the relationship between these concepts. So proposition means the relationship or the statement indicating or showing the relationships between the concepts. One of the important, propositions that in the field of behavioral science, that is, if reinforcements follow each other at evenly distributed intervals, everything else constant, the resulting habit will increase in strength as a positive growth function of number of trials. So in the field of behavioral science, this type of proposition is there. Reinforcement. There are two concepts, reinforcement and punishment. So reinforcement increases the behavior, punishment decreases the behavior. So when we say proposition, so this is a proposition when we have reinforcement. So reinforcements lead to increase in habit's strength. Leads to habit by increasing the strength or increasing the strength of the habit. So reinforcement and increasing habit's strength. Right. Reinforcement is a concept. Habit is another concept. Therefore, you have to establish a relationship between these two concepts, reinforcement and the habit. When there is more positive reinforcement, then the habit will increase in its strength. That is the relationship. So it is a statement, it's a sentence establishing the relationship between the concepts. Therefore, proposition can be understood as a network of concepts or logical network of concepts establishing the relationships amongst the what is called the concepts. And when it comes to the theories, we are at the highest level of abstraction. That is the network of what is called the propositions. So we are at the highest level of abstraction when we discuss the process of theory development. Means least concrete. Theories are least concrete, and concepts are the most concrete things. Most concrete things in the sense we can count, or we can measure, or we can say know with the help of our in any other way we can know through the help of our sensory experience. That is what we say. The concrete are the most, the concepts are the most concrete things. But theories are found at the highest level of abstraction. Therefore, when we say theory is a, or theory can be understood as, the coherent set of propositions. So proposition is nothing but, the statement showing the relationships between the concepts. Concepts in isolation do not serve any purpose, because researchers always, deal with the reality, observable world, or loosely termed as real world, observable world, loosely termed as reality. That is, reality means observable world. That is very important. We must, what's called abstract the theory or concepts into reality. Or concepts always abstract reality. Means concepts are expressed with the help of words or phrases. And these words or phrases always refer to the real life situations. So that we will have to note. So a theory is nothing but a coherent set of propositions. It is a logical linkage amongst the various propositions. Say coherent set of propositions to be used as principles. Why should we use these set of propositions? So they should be used as principles for the purpose of explaining. So we can explain only when we answer all the questions. Because you can have a descriptive study or a causal study. A descriptive study just attempt to answer only 5 questions: what, when, where, how, and who. It does not answer why. That is, its goal is not finding the linkage between cause and effect as far as descriptive research is. But causal study or explanatory study is concerned with establishing the linkage between cause and effect. Right? So we can establish a linkage between cause and effect only when we answer all these 6 questions. Particularly when we answer why, because we cannot answer why without answering other 5 questions. So we use propositions to explain, propositions as a principles to explain the apparent relationships amongst the phenomenon under our study, or amongst the problems related to the subject matter of the study. So coherent set of general propositions to be used as principles of explanation, apparent relationship of certain observed phenomena. That is the meaning of the theory actually. Then of course, the purpose of theory, as you already noted, that is under prediction and understanding. So when we say levels of abstraction, so concepts, and so we say concepts can be described at increasing levels of abstraction. And the process of development of a theory can be understood as a process of describing a phenomenon. For example, if an organizational theorist involved in the process of describing organizational behavior, so then he's actually involved in the process of describing organizational behavior at an increasingly higher levels of abstraction. Therefore, in general, the process of the development of a theory or theory building is nothing but the process of describing a phenomenon at increasingly higher levels of abstraction. So concepts can also be understood at various levels of abstraction. As we move up the ladder of abstraction, you can recall that we have called an object apple. From object apple, we can move to higher level of abstraction, that is fruit. At the highest level of abstraction, we can have vegetation. Apple, fruit, vegetation. So something like, concept, proposition, theory. So this is the process of the development of a theory, that is describing a phenomenon at increasingly higher levels of abstraction. So that is called process of theory building or development of a theory. So as we move up the ladder of abstraction, when we describe the concepts, we say the concepts become wider in scope. As we move up the ladder of abstraction, when we say fruit, not only includes, correct, apple, but also it includes other, what you say, fruits, other types of fruits. And then at the highest level of abstraction, you can have what's called a vegetation. When you say vegetation, it includes not only the objects being called fruits, but also certain other things. But of course, the objects that are not completely unrelated to vegetation are not taken into account. Therefore, enough details must be retained in order to exclude all other objects being called vegetation. Correct. So this is how we can find at increasingly higher levels of abstraction, the orange, fruit, and vegetation. That is concepts, proposition, and theory. Even the concepts can also be discussed at higher levels, at increasing levels of abstraction. Even concepts. So the most abstract concepts are called constructs. So we have the terms concept and construct. So constructs are considered as the most abstract concepts. And while doing research or building a theory, we must be careful about the conceptualization and the development of concepts in such a way that they must be clearly understood by the target audience clearly. Therefore, the success of theory building or research depends upon how clearly we conceptualize the things and how these concepts are understood by the target audience. These two things are important. Therefore, if you ask a question, what is your total income? Then total income concept is very vague. It's very difficult to understand unless you narrow this type of a concept of your total income of your family. Therefore, you must be clear whether total income means monthly income, yearly income. You have to specify this one. Or total income is the income of only head of the family or for all the family members. Whether total income includes only salary or other components also, say wage. Right? All those things you must specify. That is how you have to narrow the concepts. So let us not simply use the term total income. We'll have to narrow the concept. And we should always pay attention to the problems that we may face while using the concepts. And the problem of concepts are accentuated in the situation of research. When you use concepts in the field of research, we face difficulties, more difficulties. So we may, very easily agree to the terms such as table, chair, fan, etc. But we may face a little bit difficulty when we say retail transaction, debit, credit, etc. And there are certain concepts which are very difficult to be understood. So say concepts such as personality, motivation, etc. And these concepts are called constructs: personality, motivation, etc. Because they are very difficult to be understood. We might have heard these terms, personality, etc., motivation, etc. But what exactly a personality means? Very difficult one. Therefore, concepts can be described or understood at progressive levels of abstraction. The lowest level of abstraction, we have table, chair, etc. At the higher level of abstraction, we have retail transaction, debit, credit, and so on. The highest level of abstraction, say you have personality, motivation, etc. And the most abstract concepts are called constructs. So you cannot measure the constructs actually, and therefore how we can measure? So constructs are images or ideas especially invented for research and or theory building purpose. Constructs. So we can develop constructs by combining the concepts. The constructs are used for the purpose of expressing, or constructs are used for the purpose of showing the combination of concepts, or constructs are developed on the basis of combining the various concepts, the required concepts. So concepts that do not have the objective referent means we cannot count or measure these things. So these concepts which don't have direct objective referent are called constructs. Say presentation quality, as far as a technical writer is concerned, presentation quality it is a construct at the lowest level of abstraction. At a higher level of abstraction, you can have a language skill. At the highest level of abstraction, you can have a job interest, like that. So presentation skill construct can be obtained by combining the concepts such as format accuracy, keyboard speed, manuscript error, like that. Keyboard speed, manuscript error, very easily we can find out. Correct. So presentation skill is found at the lowest level of abstraction. And then higher level of abstraction, we can have a language skill. When we say language, it requires syntax, vocabulary, spelling. So not that vocabulary, spelling are very difficult to understand. And therefore, language skill is found at a higher level of abstraction than presentation. The highest level of abstraction, you can have a job interest, which involves many concepts. By combining the concepts, we can have constructs. So constructs are nothing but the most abstract concepts. So we have concepts, and these concepts always abstract reality, and we say researchers always operate at two levels: the abstract level of propositions and concepts, and the empirical level of manipulation and observation. A researcher always operates at two levels. Initially at an abstract level of concepts and proposition, and at the empirical level, we have observations and manipulations, like that. Okay. So concepts always abstract the reality. That is, when concepts are expressed with words or phrases, and these words or phrases refer to the objects or events that we can notice or see or count or measure or say, gather information through our sensory experiences, right? So a researcher therefore always concerned with observable world. Researchers always translate their conceptualization of reality into concepts always. Right. The researchers always concerned with the translation of their reality into concepts. Therefore, theories are concerned with the ideas. Right. The ideas are the essence of the theory, but not the things. Right. So the things must be converted into the ideas. The ideas form the or constitute the essence of a theory. When we say theory, we can say theory is understood as a logical network of various propositions. Propositions are statements concerned with the relationship amongst the concepts. And so when we have a hypothesis, or hypotheses are considered as the empirical counterpart of a proposition. A proposition is found at the abstract level. Propositions and concepts are found at the highest level of abstraction, or at the level of abstraction where the researcher operates. That is propositions and concepts. And at the empirical level, or an empirical counterpart of a proposition is called, hypothesis. Therefore, we have a proposition, a proposition has reinforcements lead to what is called increase in habit strength. This is a proposition found at the abstract level. Correct. At the empirical level, you can have a hypothesis like this. There is a relationship between bonus payment and the sales volume above target. Right. So now note that bonus and sales volume are the concepts at the what is called the empirical level. The concepts at the empirical level are called variables. Variables, only variables we can measure. We cannot directly measure the constructs, but only variables can be measured. Therefore, variables are nothing but the concepts found at the empirical level. A researcher always operates at two levels: abstract level of concepts and propositions, and empirical level of observations and manipulations, like that. Okay. So when we say proposition, so in order to develop a theory, it's not enough if we just have a concept, as you just now noted. We require what's called the idea as to what is the relationship between the various concepts under our consideration. So that is very important. Propositions always tell us how the concepts are related to each other, a logical linkage amongst the concepts, concept reinforcement, and concept, another concept habit. We have a what's called a statement that's nothing but a proposition which is found at the abstract level. And an empirical counterpart, we have what's called a hypothesis. That is nothing but the empirical counterpart of the proposition. Right? That is, bonus payment and the sales volume, like that. Right? So then, of course, on the basis of concepts and propositions, we can have theory. Right. Theory is therefore once again be noted as or understood as the coherent set of propositions to be used as principles of explanations of apparent relationships of observed phenomena like that. So here, when we say by doing research, we have to build a theory, or ultimately we must have a theory building. So we should keep in mind the important essence of any research or theory building. That is what's called, the scientific method. Just now you noted the meaning of the scientific method. It is a set of procedures and techniques used for the purpose of, knowing and understanding a phenomenon. And it analyzes and interprets the empirical evidence in order to accept or reject the preconceived conceptions or hypotheses. In other words, we can say a scientific method always involves a set of prescribed procedures for the purpose of establishing and connecting the events, or for the purpose of establishing and connecting the statements about events, and for the purpose of predicting the events yet not known, yet unknown. So that is the meaning of scientific method. Set of prescribed procedures that we use for the purpose of establishing and connecting the various concepts, that is propositions, and on the basis of this we should go for the predictions of the events that are not known yet. So that is the meaning of the scientific method. Of course, there is no a standardized scheme for a scientific method. When we say scientific method, there is no standardized expression for a scientific method. However, most of the discussions of the scientific method point to one thing, that is empirical testability. When we say scientific method, empirical testability or careful observation is considered as the important aspect of any scientific method. Although there is no a standardized format for this type of scientific method, most of the discussions of scientific method refer to one thing, that is empirical testability. So, or careful observation. So if you want to develop a theory and verify a theory, whether there is any inconsistency in the theory already developed, or whether the proposition used is correct or not. So we'll have to verify a theory, and note that if you want to verify a theory, then we should take into account this type of careful observation. So only based upon testing of hypothesis, based upon empirical evidence, we can go for testing of a theory. So just like, records are made to be broken, the theories are always made to be tested ultimately. So ultimately, we have to test a theory whether any inconsistency is there. So based upon the careful observation, say using facts, and to differentiate between a fact and a theory. Actually, there is a difference between fact and theory. Actually, facts are concerned with what's called observable world, whereas theory refers to structure of ideas that explains those facts revealed by what's called observations or experimentation. So we may have different theories explaining a particular phenomenon. There may be competing explanations for the same phenomenon. Different competing theories may be there, but fact cannot go away, although we can find different theories explaining the same phenomenon. For example, Einstein's theory of gravitation replaced Sir Isaac Newton's theory of gravitation. But the fact does not change. The fact which observed, correct, cannot change. Theory of gravitation developed. A scientist observed how apple fell on the correct earth. So when another theory developed challenging the previous theory, we cannot say apple again started moving up towards that theory. We cannot say. Fact, that is apple already fallen on the ground. This remains same, but theory may develop. We may have new theories may develop. That is there. Fact cannot go away, although different theories can emerge explaining the same phenomenon of interest. Right. So when we say theory without a fact is the most dangerous thing. One thing worse in this universe, that is a theory without a fact. So when we develop a theory, we should always take into account reality, observable world, fact, like that. Right. So when we say theory development, a theorist or a researcher always concerned with both the theory development, say using both, or a theorist concerned with both theory development using deductive logic and inductive approach. We should also take into account this type of, deductive logic and inductive logic. So simply we can say inductive approach is the approach which is concerned with the creation or development of theories based upon the observations. That is, we observe some events, and we may develop some tentative hypotheses, and then we develop some theories. Right. So from specific to general, that is inductive approach. So this inductive approach forms the basis of what is called a qualitative research. You say qualitative research, the distinction between inductive and deductive approaches is the difference between the qualitative research and the qualitative research and quantitative research. Qualitative research is based upon inductive argument. Quantitative research is based upon deductive argument. So deductive approach involves testing of theories and hypothesis, through the evaluation of observations. Okay. Through evaluation of observed data. That's all. So inductive argument starts with the observation and then moves towards the creation of theory, whereas deductive argument starts with the theory, develops some hypothesis, and then collects data, and then based upon the evaluation of collected data, this deductive approach confirm this type of theory, or what we say, test this type of theory and hypothesis. So from general to specific, that is deductive approach, and inductive approach, some specific observation to general, that is theory development. The purpose of inductive approach, that is from specific observation to what is called theory development, and it is oriented towards exploration and discovery. What's called understanding the dimensions of the various problems, exploratory study, something like that. Whereas deductive approach is concerned with testing of theories, already developed theories, on the basis of the evaluation of observed data, and it always oriented towards the linkage between cause and effect. That is deductive approach, correct? Which forms the basis for what is called quantitative research. So when we develop a theory, we should always take into account both these arguments. Okay, most of the scientific investigations, based upon this type of deductive argument. scientific investigations. Most of the scientific investigations, involve experimentation design, a research design. When you say research design, broadly speaking, it is a framework of methods and techniques, used by or chosen by a researcher in order to conduct a research. That is a framework, a research design, a plan and a structure so conceived as to answer or provide answers to research questions. That is what's called a research design. One of the research designs based upon the control of variables by the researcher, that is experimental design. So in experimental design, where the researcher has control over the variables and the researcher manipulates the variables and concerned with the goal of linkage between cause and effect here, experimental design. So most of the scientific investigations involving this type of experimental design are based upon deductive logic. There is a theory, right? And we collect data to test this theory. I think we may vaccines for the prevention of using inductive argument. They collect data, and if it's required, then some tentative hypothesis will be formulated, and then we develop what's called some theories. That is inductive approach. So when we make use of a scientific method, so we should keep in mind both deductive logic and inductive logic. So, or while developing a theory or a research, so we must take into account both deductive logic and what's called inductive logic. There are two important aspects of the science, namely empirical aspect and explanatory aspects. Empirical aspect is concerned with the facts of the science as revealed by experimentation and observations. This type of explanatory aspect makes an earnest or serious attempt to understand those facts of the science as revealed by observations or experiments and integrate those facts into some coherent or logical set of systems or theory or something like that. So we have empirical level and explanatory level. From empirical level, we get observations, and from explanatory level, we get integration from observation and integration derived or either directly or indirectly the basic laws of theory. That is theory, basic laws of the science or theory, by that we can say. Right. So there are two important aspects of any scientific study, empirical level and explanatory. So the purpose of any empirical evidence, that is to help us to predict the future through the help of abstract concepts. So here we have predictors of some selection criteria, say experience, past performance, like that. We'll have to predict the ultimate job performance involving, say, as this slide shows, right? So you may have to predict quality of work, quantity of work, etc. So we can predict these future events, say, through the abstract concepts. So we can say these are nothing but constructs: ability, motivation, intelligence, personality. These are all most abstract concepts. That is nothing but constructs. And Constructs are obtained by combining various concepts, say concepts such as predictors of selection, say experience, past performance, like that. So based upon this, we can predict the future through these abstract concepts. Say we can predict the various elements of job performance, right? So when we say scientific, method, therefore we should keep in mind both deductive logic and inductive logic. And therefore, on the basis of our discussion so far, now we can say when we say process of theory development is a process of describing a phenomenon at increasingly higher levels of abstraction, then so we indulge in this process of describing a phenomenon at a higher level of abstraction with the help of a scientific method. So we can have an overview of a scientific method or an entire research process or theory building process. We can say we have to state the research problem very clearly. So a problem well defined. So there is an idea, a problem well defined, is a problem half solved. So we should always try to understand the importance of a question rather than trying to finding the right answer to a question. But in many cases, unfortunately, we may focus on finding a right answer rather than what's called formulating right questions. However, as one of the authors pointed out, formulations of questions is far more essential than finding the solutions for those questions, like that. So we should focus on finding or formulating the right questions rather than finding the right answer. So formulating right questions is more difficult than finding the right answer. Right. So we'll have to state the research problem very clearly. And this type of statement of a research problem can influence objectives. So objectives, we can have, when you do some study, say attitude of customers towards a particular product in a particular geographical area. So your main objective is to determine the objectives of customers towards a particular product. To achieve this particular broader objective, what are all the specific objectives? So from statement of problem, you will have broader objective. From broader objective, you can have specific objectives. And finally, you can have, what's called, a research design. Research design, right? It's a framework of research design is a framework of methods and techniques chosen by a researcher to conduct, a research. So broadly speaking, a research design can be of two types, qualitative and quantitative. So when we say qualitative and quantitative design, our focus should not be on methods. The terms qualitative research and quantitative research have more than simply having methods. Say, it is common to consider the observations, participants' observations and face-to-face interview as qualitative methods, and survey methods involving questionnaire and experimentation as quantitative methods. But when we distinguish between qualitative research and quantitative research, we should consider some larger distinctions than simply methods. Because we cannot say that a particular method is always associated with a particular research. Because research methods are not intrinsically associated with a particular research. Therefore, it is not which method we use that is important, but how you use that research method and for what purpose, that is more important. Therefore, when we say research design, you have a qualitative research and quantitative research. These are the approaches, correct? So, based upon, the statement of the problem through broader objectives, specific objectives, you can have a research design. And then once you have an idea about a research design, then you can go for a planning of sample, and then you can collect the data, and then you can analyze and evaluate data. Finally, you can formulate the conclusions, or you can provide the explanations. That is nothing but a development of theory. So when you formulate conclusions, so this is the last stage in this particular scientific method, that is formulation of conclusions or providing some explanation. At this stage, you have to note that you may come across some unanticipated aspects of the problem. And therefore, research may suggest that you require additional research for the purpose of achieving your main objective. Therefore, if there is any new problem that emerges, so while providing explanation, for phenomena under consideration, then this new problem must be defined, and additional research must be conducted. Therefore, entire scientific method or research process can be understood as a cyclical process, a circular flow concept from statement of the problem, broader objective, specific objective, design, planning a sample, acquiring empirical data, analyzing, providing explanation. Then some new problems may emerge, and again go for defining that particular problem, or go for the statement of the problem. So, like this, entire scientific method can be understood as a cyclical, process. So, when we go for theory development, therefore, we should always say that scientific method is considered as the essence of any research and or theory development or theory building. So, the process of theory building, therefore, can be understood as the sum of the process of describing a phenomenon at increasingly higher levels of abstraction. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So now, I think if any discussion or any query, you can ask so that we can share our viewpoints. So whatever I discussed or described or so far, so cannot be considered to be 100% perfect. There is always scope for improvement, always scope for more improvement. Correct. Learning is always a continuous process. Right. So ultimately, our objective must be to learn. So we cannot say a learner is complete. Learning can be exhausted. There is always scope for more learning. Therefore, as we discussed in our session, correct, formulation of questions are far more important than finding solutions. And therefore, if any questions, you can ask so that we can discuss.
Participants can ask your questions if there is any. In the chat box also there is no question, sir, but every person's giving a good feedback regarding it was a good session and a fruitful session and enlightened session.
Okay, thank you.
Dear participants, if there are no questions, I will move on to the okay. I think there are no questions are there because sir was given a elaborate explanation relating to that building of research theory. Actually, it was a wonderful session. I'm sure everyone present here is enlightened by your thoughts on research, sir. Now we'll move on to the vote of thanks. Our realm of existence at Nehru Memorial College, India, rests on ever cherished support of our chairperson, Dr. K.V. Chidananda. Our due admiration to you, sir. Also extend heartfelt thanks to Mrs. Sobha Chidananda, treasurer of AOLA registered, for the encouragement of this program, madam. The similar admiration also extends in lineage and inheritance. So special thanks to our director, architect Akshay Kessi, sir. The words always fall short to thank the most humble prime pillar of our institute, our beloved principal, Dr. Puvappa Gowda, who has by far supports his abilities to lend me a word of encouragement and support to all our activities at the Department of Commerce. Thank you, sir. My heartfelt gratitude to Professor M. Balachandra Gowda, who is always encouraging us to conduct the programs. Thank you, sir. My heartfelt warmth of gratitude to all the chief resource persons for all the 3 days, Dr. B. Nagaraju, University of Mysore, as my sir, and Dr. Niyaz Panakaje, Srinivasa University, and Professor Vedava sir of Mangalore University chairman, who willingly agreed to deliver such thoughtful sessions in spite of their busy schedule. Professor Vedava sir is always busy with giving suggestions to the industrial sector also. And I'm thankful for you, sir, accepting the invitation and being the part of our FTP. Thank you very much, sir. Now it's time to thank my people in the enclosed room of commerce. For the first day and today's welcome session, I thank my colleague and IKSE coordinator, Mrs. Ratnavati Ji, who has been consistently an inspirational drive to all our activities at the department. Thank you, madam. My extended warmth of gratitude to my colleague, Mr. Sridhar V, for today's guest introduction and the much preserved vote of thanks for the first day. Sir, I cherish your persistent support for standing rock pillar for all my initiatives. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mrs. Geeta Shanai, for yesterday's vote of thanks. I have always and will always cherish your endured helping hand to all the initiatives towards our activities at the department. Thank you, Mrs. Divya T.S., for the much obliged guest introduction of Mr. Niyaz Panakaje. Your enthusiasm and lifted spirits makes every activity of our department well driven. Thank you, madam. Thank you, Mrs. Ashwini and Mrs. Meenakshi Rai, for yesterday's well-spoken MC and welcome address. Thank you, Mrs. Akshita Mohan, for today's shift MC. My juniors, your timely initiative for this program as an ever helping and will always be endured in all our future activities too. Thank you all. So thank you, Madam Dr. Vijayalakshmi, HOD of Economics, for your literal support to our department. Thank you, Madam. Now, moving to the warmth of thanks towards the outdoors of our department, the outlayered faculties in our active and extended Department of Science and Arts and the other departments. Thank you, faculties, for every little word of support and extended help. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vikram, Technical Manager of IT Department, for the setup. And thank you, Office Staff, Mr. Arun C, for all the needful help in the brochure. While preparing the brochure, he was helped me a lot, and he was with me for 1 week. So thank you, Mr. Arun. And thank you, Mr. Shivanand, for the mic and the other setup. Whatever necessary in our setup here is there, that was done by Mr. Shivanand. Thank you, Shivanand. And last but not the least, thank you, participants, for earnest listening. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Vedav sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Dr. Porpakali.
Welcome, sir. In our busy schedule also, you are accepting my invitation, and Hope sir also encouraged us to invite you. He is my friend. I will talk to him, and before I called you, sir was called you, and as this, I am very grateful to you, sir, because whenever the commerce activities are going on in our universities, you stand first, and you will have to go for guiding them. And when I asked you, and you have given me a suggestion like, yes, you can go ahead, and I'll be with you, and I'll help you. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for being with us in this very helpful session for our faculty, and as well as the researchers, scholars also. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Welcome.